Hello and welcome to this episode of Hey, I Loved That Movie, the podcast where we watch the films we loved when we were younger to see if they still hold up. I'm Dan,
I'm Michael.
I'm Helena.
And I'm Elliot.
and for today's episode, we watched Small Soldiers. So, to stay in theme with this movie, which I loved as a kid, and I'd like to start with the bit that I completely forgot about as a kid, which is that the first 10 minutes must have bored the shit out of me because it's just a load of corporate bollocks.
What was the first 10 minutes?
It's when they're like, oh, we're going to market this new toy, and we're going to work out how to market this new toy, and we'll put a microchip in it and do all. And it was important for the story, but
I did think they were the main characters, the two toy designers.
yeah, I remember David Cross being in it. Another movie where I remember it very differently.
I mean, all of the anti-military propaganda completely went over my head as a kid.
Yeah, it was a weird film because I quite liked that opening 10 minutes as an adult, and I do not remember it as a kid.
Oh yeah, no, I
same.
agree now. Yeah, like it serves a big purpose in the story now, but yeah, as a kid, I completely forgot that bit it existed.
As a
Yeah.
kid, you don't need a premise for the toys that are alive and fighting each other. We're already same as Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole concept of this guy accidentally put a military microchip in these toys. By the way, if you haven't seen the film, a guy puts a military microchip in toys and they come alive and start fighting.
Yep, because
And-
there's the army toys, which are the badass soldiers that everyone wants, and then there's the Gorgonites, who are
The soft boys.
weird
Yeah, there's
monsters.
I like the eye one.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. I always wanted a toy of Archer when I was a kid. I remember always wanting one of those.
One of my favorite things about, especially the opening 10 minutes of the film, is when you have the guy when he's buying they get given their military access by the big corpo that's bought out the toy company for some reason, and he orders it off of this ancient operating system on a computer, but then the very next shot is this super high tech ultra advanced 3D printing that
Yeah.
today we have 3D printing, but they absolutely did not back when this film was made. So the tech in the film, films when they try to sort of predict the future and they get bits of it right and bits of it really, really wrong. I think this was a really great example of that.
I still think there are definitely some military operations in the US that are using Microsoft 1998.
I think my favorite part about that computer that he uses to order the microchip, number one, there's no question on if he wants what he wants these military microchips for, and I quite like that insecurity in the government. But I also like that it gave him 3 boxes to fill out, and he put microchip, state of the art, and was it military?
Yeah.
And
I
then
thought it was military came up, but it was like
I know he was like, oh, I want it to be modern and new, state of the art. Like any computer would understand at that time would understand what that means and then be like, oh, this microchip. Like when they put all of these things into the system, someone wrote out state of the art. That whole sequence was weird.
It really was.
I also, no question, no, have these highly experimental military things at a toy company. You're fine, have them.
Exactly, basically just a very advanced AI, which was really cool. I like how they still had the different personalities for all the characters. I mean, the army men were all pretty one note, but that explains a lot. But all of the Gorgonites, I liked how they were all nice and different. Like the Basher guy with the big rock for a hand. It's just very slow. I relate to him now. I ate an entire apple pie before recording. I feel exactly like that character.
Nice.
oh no.
Something I remember actually very vividly as a kid was there being actual toys of I can't remember his name, but the spinny guy, the spinny Gorgonite.
Insaniac.
Yeah, I actually remember seeing a lot of promotional material and toys and stuff of him as a kid, and I remember him being a really popular character, at least in my school.
Yeah.
But then watching the film, he was in it a lot less than I expected. Like, and he was just all of his lines were just like throwaway jokes.
I remember him being in it more.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, I remember him being more prominent than on actual rewatch. He wasn't actually that big of a deal to the whole movie.
So I looked up about the whole was that because when I was watching it, I was like, is this just an advert for toys? Is this just an advert for toys of this film? And half of the film feels like it's an advert for the toys, and half of the film doesn't. And I looked it up, and I found out why.
Is it
Okay.
because they only made half of the characters into toys?
No, because so it was directed by the same guy that directed Gremlins
Okay.
and Gremlins 2. So that's why like half of the film feels really chaotic.
Mm,
Because that's what he does, chaos films. But apparently, as they were making it, it was originally meant to be for like a violent film for teenagers.
yeah, that
explains
checked out.
the scene with that explains the scene with Kirsten Dunst being tied up and attacked by these toys.
Yep, by the terrifying, like, mutant Barbie doll things.
Yeah.
Before I want to talk about them because they're horrifying nightmare people. But the reason why it's like half tame is because apparently the advertisers and the promotional material in the show got involved and they were like, we want it to be more kid friendly. So it ended up with like this weird 50, and the director says it was like it ends up with this weird 50-50 of super child friendly but also weird teenage bits in it.
Yeah, because there was the bit where the main kid's parents were literally asking him if he was on crystal meth, and I was like, that ain't no kid movie.
That's
Like,
weird. But that's why I think it's like you have the scenes where it's clearly just an advert for toys because the people who made the toys came in and said we want it to be kid friendly and whatever, and then you can see bits of Gremlins in it.
It's filmed after Toy Story, isn't it? And
Yeah.
Toy Story also has those dark bits. I was just thinking about how it's nowhere near as scary. I think
True.
because it's a fully animated film, like it's not as scary. But those Barbies really reminded me of those mishmash toys.
I think the toys at the creepy toys in Toy Story are scary. The Barbie dolls in Small Soldiers, they're unhinged.
yeah.
Yeah, they are very insane. They're brought to life by a cake pan that's got electricity running through it, so they can put all their heads in it.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was like, you know, when you put all your little muffin cases in it when you're baking. It was one of them upside down.
So when they take apart one of the other soldiers' heads and then they take the chip out and then they put it on a thing and that somehow replicates the chip. That annoyed me. They built a machine that replicates these military chips, which is horrifying because that involves like these AI aren't just learning, they're duplicating.
They're reproducing.
Something else I found really, really strange about that whole sequence was when the military toys first got into the room and saw, before they had reanimated all of the dolls and done the Frankenstein scene so much, the weird implication of like sexual stuff from the military toys towards the inanimate dolls was just felt really out of place for the whole movie for me.
No, there's the teenager though. There's like
Yeah.
There's the Gremlins. there are two films in Small Soldiers. There
Yeah.
is Toy Story, and then there is Gremlins, and that's the Gremlins.
Yeah.
I was flicking through some of that scene with the toys the commandos coming in and rescuing Kirsten Dunst. I can't remember her name now.
Oh yeah, no, I can't remember her character's name.
In my head, she was just Kirsten Dunst as Kirsten Dunst.
Exactly, she gets kidnapped. I'm pretty sure like this film is why she got the role of MJ in the Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
But there's these lines where the main guy comes up to her and goes, "Are you scared?" And then he just goes, she doesn't say anything. She just goes, "We're all scared. You'd have to be crazy not to be scared."
So weird.
And I'm just like, I feel like I blinked and missed that line the first time I watched it. Or maybe I was just so horrified by the whole scene that I just glanced over it. But like, that's not a message for children.
No, it's a Gremlins message.
Yeah, well, on that scene in particular when she's being tied up, one of the notes I made was how the song that plays during that whole sequence is a Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin. You know, famous Led Zeppelin of "We don't really like our songs being used in anything."
Mm-hmm.
Let's have it in this movie where some toy soldiers tie up a woman.
The music in this film was amazing choices from start to end.
Oh yeah, like they have a Spice Girls song in it at one point as well.
Yes, they do. That caught me by surprise, but they were huge at the time, weren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think it was 99 this came out.
98.
98.
I had it
So,
on
yeah.
VHS, yeah.
So like the second part of the film is definitely where the Gremlins happens, and I
Yeah.
think it kind of starts at that weird kidnapping Barbie scene
Hmm.
because those Barbies are not in anything but that scene.
Yeah, no, they
No.
don't take part in the like huge military attack that takes part at the end.
Because they
Um,
kill them all.
Exactly.
They kill all of the Barbies. Which the second half of the film is so much better than the first. Number one, because it's unhinged and I love it. It's Toy Story unhinged, and they enjoy killing those toys way too much.
that was fun to watch.
A bit like in Gremlins where they like put the one in the microwave and stuff. Like
Yeah, specifically, I mean Kirsten Dunst. Because okay, so to explain the end of the spoilers,
spoilers for a film that is now 24
20
years
no one
old.
think about how old
No.
it is. They all have a fight in a house. The military people and the humans have a fight in one of their houses, and it's like a weird military siege of bit which the military sorry, I've kind of just taken over because this film I watched it like an hour ago and it's dug into my brain. To back up a bit, the military toys, they build weapons.
Yeah, they are very good builders somehow.
Mm.
Yeah, they've
And-
got learning capabilities, haven't they? Which, yeah, at the time, I guess 1998, it was like quite a far-flung idea, but now it's like we're getting closer, and I don't like that.
But they build like missile launchers.
Yeah, and like Mad Max style vehicles and just like smash stuff together.
Yeah, and one of them has a because no people actually die in this film. Legitimately shockingly, because the weapons that they build are trying to kill them.
I mean, would you say the Barbies are people at this point?
No, they're Barbies with
Yeah, they're all plastic AI. It's fine, and the army men as well.
the weapons that they make. The point I'm trying to the weapons that they make are super deadly.
Hmm.
And not like a lot like, oh, it's toy deadly, blah blah. No, they're shooting like one of them has a chainsaw.
I
and a
was
car.
Yeah, they've got like nail guns and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can do damage.
One of them very specifically shoots corn holders, like the spiky corn holders into a kid's leg.
Yeah.
And those toys are out for blood. They were all like, oh my god, these toys are really scary. I'd be terrified. Not only are these toys violent in themselves, they are actually trying to kill these people.
Yeah. I mean, it does have that kind of horror vibe of obviously not quite to the same extreme, but like Chucky of the whole toy trying to kill you type thing. It's
Like the overtone of the film and the undertone are the complete opposite.
Yeah, I'm just watching Kirsten Dunst run over them all with a lawnmower, and
she's having so much fun and like laughing, which to be fair, they're toys and you shouldn't feel emotionally attached, but the toys are screaming.
Yeah, like even the very first sort of soldier death, which is the one that's trying to climb on the bicycle and he gets his legs like mangled. I think he gets his legs mangled in the garbage disposal thing. And they rip him out. And then he's just like screaming in pain and stuff. Like I'm glad that didn't happen to any of the Gorgonites. I would have been very mad if it did. They are lovable and I want them.
I'm kind of disappointed. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of disappointed it wasn't allowed to be full Gremlins.
yeah, I think it would have been better if it would have been allowed to be a fifth. Well, I guess a P13, is it? P12?
Yeah.
No, just straight up 18.
Or just more chaotic. Like the best bits of it are the violently chaotic bits.
Yeah, like I say, the bits I remember most is like the Gorgonites and the actual. But like, to be honest, one of the amount I remember from watching it in the first place is like in my mind, it was David Cross's character that just made them in the first place, and he was like an evil neighbor that lived over the road. Like, yeah, that's
what your kid brain could
exactly. For some reason,
process.
I remember him being the one being tied up at one point as well, but that just never happens.
No. I remember a lot more tying up. I remember the boyfriend being tied up, but that didn't happen.
Maybe it just feels like that Kirsten Dunst scene goes on forever because it's so horrifying.
Yeah, the
it's
boyfriend just kind of disappears at one
He
point
just-
as well. He falls down the stairs and then he's gone.
like that plotline I felt was weird as well because they obviously wanted to make him out to be like, oh, the dick boyfriend, but he wasn't really even that much of a dick. He just kind of rode a motorcycle and was. I don't know. They very obviously wanted to set up that romance hook of like, oh, the kind of dorky kid gets the girl in the end, like gets her off of the dickhead guy, but he wasn't that bad. And not being funny, but if I went into someone's room and they were getting attacked by effectively a swarm of like weird animatronic dolls, and that then set me on fire, I would probably leg it too.
Yeah, there's got to be a bit of self-preservation, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Do you reckon who do you reckon put that boyfriend in the film? Because I don't think it was the director and the weird Gremlins method. I don't think it was him, but I also don't think it was the kid-friendly producer types.
It is a bit weird, isn't it? Because I mean, how old are these kids supposed to be? I find it very difficult to age either of them because American actors always look older than the characters they're playing, but also they look quite young. But also, he's riding a motorcycle.
I think him and Kirsten Dunst are meant to be 16, 17.
Oh, okay.
And I think the other boy is meant to be like 15.
That sounds about
he
right.
He looks sort of, not gonna lie, like kind of prepubescent.
Yeah, he looks like 13 or like 11 to 13.
And I just found the spoilers, the kiss, super weird to look at. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I don't want to see kids kissing.
That whole plot hook was uncomfortable to watch as an adult.
For a kids' film, it was a big kiss.
But for a Gremlins film,
Release the Gremlins cut.
I'm saying it because Gremlins had the female Gremlin. I bet that was just the Barbie dolls. Oh god, if they let him go all out on the Barbie doll. I also like in the chaos bit, the last bit. I really like the mum, his mum, who has nothing to do in the entire film, suddenly becomes like, I will save the day.
She was ready for war when she brought out the tennis racket and just started like volleying their missiles back at them.
Yeah. As soon as they broke her window, she was like, "How dare they?" She was ready to die on that hill and fight them. I love that because she's so passive throughout the film. His whole family were mental. Because they just didn't make sense.
Yeah, the casting of them all was pretty good as well. Like, all the actors in it were all pretty good.
Yeah, that was also a thing from films of this time. The casting's always amazing.
On a slightly more sad note, Kirsten Dunst's dad in this film, Phil Hartman, was murdered like not long before the release of the movie. I feel like some of it may have been edited around because of that. That's why at the very end it's got a short clip of him and it says for Phil. Like, it was sort of dedicated to him, I guess. I mean, he was pretty good in it. The, I guess, overly controlling parents kind of thing.
Yeah, he cared more about his stuff than he did his kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just gets drugged by some plastic toys.
Almost forcibly OD'd.
Yeah.
Because they throw like 6 sleeping pills in their drinks.
Yeah, the relationship aspect of the film with the parents and Alan, he doesn't look like an Alan, so I found that difficult. But the young child called Alan and the dad, like that relationship was just, it's like, it's very frustrating. I think it's one of the things where when I was a kid, and I think this is going to be a running theme for a lot of films we watch where there is that parental conflict. When I was a kid, I probably would have been like, oh, yeah, that dad's being so unfair. And then as an adult now, I'm looking like he went behind his dad's back and bought loads of toys he knew his dad wouldn't approve of and fucked it up. And now he's mad at his dad for being like, well, this hasn't gone very well, has it? It's like, oh, you can't let me, and it's like, well, why should I trust you? It's like, why should he trust his assumedly quite young child to run a shop?
I just want to bring up, I will defend the boy named Alan. He doesn't fuck it up because he gets toys which would sell well, and it's not his fault that they've got military microchips, experimental military microchips in them.
There's also, to be fair, the argument of if the dad doesn't trust the kid to look after the store, why did he let him look after the store and not just close up for the day?
I think that was, he had no other choice. It felt kind of forced in the beginning, and then it felt even more forced at the end when he says, when he's got like the we need to climb up on top and make an EMP. And the dad goes, I can't let you do that. You're mine. I need to protect you. And the kid's like, no, you have to trust me.
Trust
What?
me, let me make an electrical explosion. Like, I mean, either way, there was a chance of them dying.
What if their neighbor had a pacemaker?
All the neighbors.
God.
Well, there was that old couple. It cut to an old couple being like, I said, both
Yeah.
dead.
They could have just it was all right. They'll just hide under a satellite dish that fell down. They'll be all right.
They've got their big satellite dish that they put over
Yeah.
their bed every night.
Exactly, they'll be fine.
What I was getting at was, why can't the dad climb the thing?
Yeah, I
'Cause
was
it-
thinking that. Send the
the
kid
thing.
to do something an adult could do.
Well, no, the kid was like, don't worry, dad, trust me. The dad should have just, no, you're a child.
Yeah.
I'll climb it.
Maybe it's
No,
because where his dad had made him feel guilty for it in the first place, he felt like it was his job to fix it. Maybe he was just a bad dad.
He is a bad dad. Very bad dad. He left his kid in danger. He struggled to fight some toys. They have such a hard time fighting the toys.
Hmm.
I mean, they do have missile launchers, to be fair.
Even at close range, they shoot a net at him, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm."
I will not be
Yeah.
defeated by this tiny net.
Here we have a tiny net scene where he just gets hit by a net and he's out.
He didn't know
Just
that
wait
he just
there to be rescued.
yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't know he has to reverse the capturing sequence. It's fine.
He's a useless dad.
Can we just discuss some of the names in these films? I mean,
I-
we touched on Alan a fair
Can't-
bit.
There's
Can't remember
also
a single one.
Kirsten Dunst.
The character played by Kirsten Dunst.
Yep.
I can't remember anyone's names, if I'm honest.
Well, I do like the tongue-in-cheek, not subtle at all, main commando, Chip Hazard.
Yes,
yeah,
he had a great
Hazard.
name. Yeah.
Bit on the nose, but I did enjoy it. Not Barbie dolls, not Wendy dolls, not Shirley dolls. Gwendy. Gwendy dolls.
They couldn't get the copyright from Barbie,
No.
could they?
Well, Barbie
When-
probably saw what they were planning on doing and were like, no,
The
you
tongue-
can't. This
the-
thing is a kid's one. What do you think this will do for us? Sure, you might sell some Gorgonites. Do you think we're going to sell some Barbies from this?
Also, why would Mattel say, yeah, no, we'll help promote a different toy?
Exactly. At that point, because 98 was the same year Toy Story 2 came out, I think, and the Barbies were in that one.
Oh yeah, maybe they couldn't because they'd promised Pixar
I mean,
full Barbie.
Mattel really missed the trick of we could, on the side, in combination with Small Soldiers, release the Nightmare theme. Let's release the horror movie Barbie collection.
Just a Barbie in like a Freddy Krueger like
With a-
outfit, and
With a messed up
Can I just
Barbie.
point out that one of the actresses that did the voices for the Gwendy dolls was Sarah Michelle Gellar.
This before Friends or during early Friends?
I don't know.
Am I remembering?
I
Sarah Michelle Gellar isn't the
no,
person from
she's
Friends,
not
No,
from Friends. No, she's the Buffy
She's
the
Buffy.
Vampire Slayer.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
Daphne-
I was
and
sorry, I didn't want to
Daphne
interrupt. I was
Scooby-Doo.
wondering where you were going with that. I'm like,
Who's the other one?
Do you mean
Who am I
Monica
thinking
from
of?
Friends or
Courtney Cox,
Rachel?
I can't
Uh,
remember. Honestly,
Jennifer Aniston.
maybe.
Lisa Kudrow, the other one.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking.
I mean, that would have been a hell of a crossover episode, though. Just Ross Geller fighting off vampires or like skeleton dinosaurs.
I do quite like the idea of like Buffy, an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I can sort of picture it where some toys come to life and she has to fight them off.
With the cast of Friends.
Wait, I don't remember the name of anyone else in Small Soldiers. Not even the humans.
So, as you guys can't remember, I'm going to remind you. Love interest Kirsten Dunst's name is Christy Fimple.
It's what?
Christy Fimple.
Yes.
Fimple.
Cool. So, which bit of the chocolate factory does she die in?
Oh my god.
She's the one that gets turned into a bubble gum. She's the bubble gum one.
Yeah. So, who are the other ones?
Like, yeah,
Oh,
I'm trying-
sorry. Christy's parents are Phil Fimple and Marion Fimple.
Did they mention this at any point in the film?
I don't think so.
I don't think they ever
I
named
think-
these
I think they
characters.
did because when the dad was when all the neighbors assumed that it was the dad blasting out the Spice Girls music, they were all like yelling his name, I think.
Oh no, yeah, because he went outside, didn't he? I didn't take a lot of this film in until
That's quite a kid thing, though, isn't it? Like the parents don't really get names.
I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
Weird
and she
Thimble.
had the younger brother who was Timmy Thimble, who gets kidnapped first and tied up and put in a cupboard. And
Yeah.
then there's that whole scene where she gets home and just doesn't seem to notice. He's just sitting
Yeah,
in the
that was
cupboard and she
weird.
puts her coat on him.
Not much again in these films. The little brother's a little shit.
He is greedy. He does want that toy straight away.
And he's got to have Chip Hazard, voiced by Tommy Lee Jones.
Weird cast. These
Mm.
films are
It is
really,
a weird cast.
really good weird cast, and I love that about these films.
One of the characters played by Alexandra Wilson is called Miss Kegel.
Oh, I think she was the like the secretary to the rich military guy. One of the main things I noticed is so the ending of this movie, where after all the chaos, and I mean, luckily the Gorgonites have survived, but the rich military guy comes in and just pays everyone off to
Yes,
be
I
quiet about it.
quite enjoy that scene where money can buy silence and probably does more often than people realise.
Yeah.
I love that scene. That was great. That was a great way to end it. That wasn't the ending though, because the ending was fascinating and raises more questions than it answers.
Oh yeah, with the Gorgonites sailing off down a river into the sunset.
Yeah,
Are they off to Yosemite?
yeah, they're in Yosemite National Park.
If they made a sequel right now, set all this time later, and someone finds those toys like buried in a park, that would be amazing. I would watch it. I'd be there day one.
But with like Gremlins energy, with full Gremlins energy.
The main thing as well is obviously there's only the 5 or 6 Gorgonites. What if they'd have just got more? Like obviously the Chip Hazard goes to the toy shop at one point to get a fuckload more of the soldiers. I'm guessing he maybe burnt all the Gorgonites that were ready to go on the shelf.
So I wondered about that scene, right? And I felt like in a way it was making it more solid, like Chip Hazard's kind of, I guess, his ego as being the leader. But I was like, he's gone and got all of these other soldiers. There were definitely more Chip Hazards that were made. And he just chose not to bring any of those to the table.
Yeah, because there'd be
Not
other
an idiot.
leaders. There'd be other leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't go to a store. It was in the back of a truck.
Yes.
That I don't. Were they selling Gorgonites? Did they discontinue the Gorgonites?
Well, I think this all happens just before they're supposed to go on official sale.
Yeah, because
But
it's
there's no Gorgonites.
There's the Gorgonites that he gets in the shop. I think it's playing into the fact that the soldiers would sell better because he gets the few from the back of the truck, but there is the scene where like he sees like the giant inflatable Chip Hazard over a store that's selling loads more of them, and that's where he gets all the ones that attack in the end from.
Did they just discontinue the Gorgonites?
Well, I thought the Gorgonites were meant to be sold as well as the enemy of kind of thing. Like
maybe they were just in like the next aisle and he missed it.
There was no advertising for it, though.
No.
I think
the whole point is that the Commando Elite are always fighting the Gorgonites.
Yeah.
So in order to play out this fight scene for your kids, you have to buy them not one but at least 2 toys, so one of each minimum.
As a concept, these are the evil military. The military are the good guys, and the Gorgonites are the bad guys. Gorgonites at no point are bad guys.
No.
Like they are super peaceful. They don't hurt. They don't do anything. How are they selling that as they're the bad guys?
I think that was because they weren't created as bad guys. So the guy that actually originally made those toys, and I know they say programmed them, even though we didn't really see that outside of we put chips in them. They were never actually created initially to be the bad guys. And the scientist guy tried to, like the toy creator guy, tried to explain that to big military corpo man, and he just didn't listen. He was just like, no, just tell them that they're the enemies. So that's why they weren't actually bad. They were never programmed to be bad.
What I mean is, how do they market that? How do they market this super peaceful race of non-hurty people as the villains?
Well, I think the issue is these toys are commissioned by this Globotech CEO, and they give them it's right at the start in the boring bit that we all skipped as children, but they are given a tight 3-month deadline, so that's why everything's rushed, and that's why they don't do any safety testing or notice that no one stops to think maybe we shouldn't be using the microprocessor from the military guidance missiles, I guess, in kids' toys.
Apart from the guy that put them in there, it doesn't seem like anyone else actually noticed.
No one
Yeah.
checked. No one checked. Which is amazing.
They just showed up in unmarked packaging, popped them in, and were like, "That'll do."
Yeah.
Which isn't inherently a problem. Like, that chip is fine. As weird as it is to say after watching them try to kill people and then make a chainsaw car, but the chip isn't the problem.
Well,
And
yeah,
I
'cause there
sound
was
like
a-
the scientist in the episode who was
Yeah.
like, the chip isn't the problem. But he's right. The chip isn't the problem. The problem is that they programmed it to kill for some reason.
They programmed toys to fight each other, and they did exactly that.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if they just no, they didn't. Not just fight, to kill. To kill the Gorgonites. They were when they were programming what the military people should do. The programming said, "Kill the Gorgonites at any means necessary."
And
Kill-
anyone deemed to be
And-
allied with as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kill
Any
the
means
ones that
necessary.
look different and weird to the army of military people. Yeah, it
There
makes-
was no counter programming with maybe these
No.
toys shouldn't try to kill the kids that play with them also.
I mean, fair enough. From like, I can see from an evil business standpoint, yeah, they'll destroy the Gorgonites, and the parents have to buy more, which is such a clever built-in
Mm.
destruction. Oh, we'll just program the military ones to destroy the other one, and then the parents have to keep buying more. And I feel like if it was made for teenagers, they would have bought that up. At no point were they like, maybe we shouldn't have. No one in the programming, no computer guy, no technician, not even an assistant said, hey, maybe the military ones we shouldn't be programming to kill at any means necessary. Maybe that's a bad thing to program. Because we know that these microchips are military standard and were used in nuclear warheads.
Yeah. But then that was also addressed in like the first 10 minutes of the film when they walked into that meeting. They were sort of like, oh, where's everybody else? And it was basically like, no, we've fired everybody else. We are the military corp with the money. You're going to do as we say, or it's not going to happen for you, kind of thing.
It's fair, but they'd need people to build the machines, to build the things, and at no point and program it. At no point did someone go, maybe murder by any means necessary isn't the route to go with these toys that we're assuming will come. Because one of the things that they were told was it has to come to the machines. The toys have to come to life. They have
Oh yeah,
to
because
be
of
real.
the advert where they do come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they knew that was going to happen. They knew what they were They knew what they were aiming for, and they still said any means necessary. It just seems like a terrible marketing campaign.
Yeah, I mean they were just so the military were just in this film come across as so desperate for like I guess like some positive military toys to indoctrinate the next round of 18-year-olds to come and join the forces.
Yeah, it never really talks about that though. It's just their military
'Cause it
toys.
goes so
sell well.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
no,
sort of like watching that as an adult, that that's implied, but yeah, it's not actually
Yeah.
addressed.
it's just gun toys sell well, and the violent toy, because he said violent. I think the biggest comment they make isn't on anti-military; it's on marketing violence to kids. Because he says
Mm.
it's violent, kids love violence, but call it action instead. And like that's the biggest comment that I think they make in terms of like social commentary. Is that line is it? But then you have at the end when the main guy, who is a terrible person, when he comes down in the helicopter, he says, "Get those toys. I know some rebels in X country who will really love them."
Yeah.
Which means his plan is to take these toys and make a military unit out of them, make like an official part of the military. How do you... What? What? Don't fight the American military. They have evil toys.
Well, I think the idea is if you can put it in a toy, why not put it in a big robot? And then you have, iRobot, but deliberate and bad.
That he says, I want to send these toys. He says, see if you can replicate this and get in touch with the military. And I just like the idea that because the toys would be self-aware and believe that they're in the military,
Yeah.
you'd have a unit of military toy as like an official regiment.
I mean,
God.
it would be pretty funny if it just like you're in this complete other country at war, and they release the toys, and they immediately turn around and try to go back to a park where the Gorgonites have gone to. They're like, no,
Yeah.
these are our
Yeah,
enemies.
you forgot to delete that little sentence in programming.
By any means necessary.
They just
Oh
start
god, they
swimming.
hijack a plane,
Oh no!
We've got
crash
small
into
to-
Yosemite, cause a volcano to explode.
Yeah.
The
got
toys
small
end the
to-
world.
Oh,
We've-
well, that reminds me of the alleged cancelled remake, because the script was bought back in 2014.
Mm.
Apparently, it's one of the films that got killed when Disney bought Fox.
Yeah.
But it was going to be renamed Toymageddon.
Oh,
No.
yes. We're here for that. Small
Oh,
soldiers.
apparently it was revealed the film was never intended as a remake of Small Soldiers, but it was kind of the same, but it was similar.
I think we've just worked out the perfect sequel. I'm just gonna propose it to you guys, and I don't care what you say. I'm doing it.
No, that's fine.
Elevator
Let's
pitch.
let's have a pitch for
I'm
this
pitching
Small
it.
Soldiers sequel. That's what this whole podcast being started was to try
So-
and get a sequel to Small
Yeah.
Soldiers made.
They have to pay us now.
So, opening on a military base, some secret military base somewhere. They're building the military toys, and one of them they accidentally use the same chip from Chip Hazard and put it into a new Chip Hazard body, and he has all the memories. He has all of the memories of old Chip Hazard. And when he's woken up, when they're in their boxes, he breaks free and he goes and finds his unit again of new people, and he tells them we have an original enemy, a great enemy called the Gorgonites. And they're like, oh, but we have this actual military stuff too. He's like, no, what we're going to do, we're going to hijack a helicopter and we're going to fly to Yosemite Park. And then it cuts to Yosemite Park, where the Gorgonites are just having a good time. And they built their homes in the trees and they're being happy. And then the helicopter approaches and it's the military toys.
Can it have
And-
the same sort of style soundtrack? So we
It-
maybe have like Carly Rae Jepsen playing while the helicopter approaches.
It's full Gremlins.
Oh no, I want there to be weird patches of kids movie mixed in with.
Okay, yeah. It's still
So-
advertising friendly.
Can the kid come back? Can Alan now be a park ranger at Yosemite?
If we can get Alan, if not, I like the idea of just a park ranger being aware of these toys being alive, and they've told him not to tell anyone in case they
Greg
find.
Smith up to these days?
No, we'll just call him Alan.
Alan.
You know, we're not going to be able to
He's
tell
Alan.
who. I
Uh,
think the guy's still acting. I don't know.
He's
Yeah.
doing TV. Oh, and directing.
Oh,
he'll be
nice.
happy.
Oh, he
Yeah.
can direct it. Yeah.
Get him in. He'll be fine. So Alan is back as a park ranger, and he's the only one that knows these. And then the military toys turn up, and it's just a fight in a forest. And Kirsten Dunst is still there. She might be harder to get, but yeah, that's my starting pitch.
Hmm.
I want Small Soldiers 2, Armageddon.
God.
Toymageddon.
Toymageddon, thank you.
Toymageddon at Yosemite Park.
I've got some fun facts about the film for you.
Okay.
If you
So
prom- only if you
apparently,
promise they're fun.
well, they're kind of fun. So Burger King, in their kids' meals, they had a licensing deal to supply Small Soldiers toys, but they'd already agreed to this licensing before the film was slapped with the PG-13 rating. So then they were like, they had to very quickly had to effectively bribe parents by being like, look, you can swap it in and have a Mr. Potato Head instead. So they all had to be packaged with the message like, while the toys themselves are suitable for the children of all ages, the movie may contain material inappropriate for your children.
I wish they sold the military toys with like staplers strapped to their arms and
Oh
like,
god.
like when they became violent. I want those toys.
They
Yeah.
have like Connect sets of like hell cars with chainsaws built
Yeah.
onto them.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've just discovered is that the Gorgonites were actually all voiced by the voice actors from Spinal Tap, and similarly, all of the characters other than Chip Hazard, the military figures were a small reunion for the cast of the Dirty Dozen. That was quite cool, and also yeah, the Gwendy dolls were all voiced by big stars, as we uncovered a moment
Yeah.
ago.
All of them from Friends.
Yeah,
Hmm.
all from Friends.
I like
I
the Barbie
distinctly
doll.
remember the
The Ross doll.
The Ross doll.
the Joey Tribbiani voiced
Yeah.
Gwendy doll.
Oh, I quite liked the Chandler one. That was pretty good. And there was the one where the Joey one pretended to be the Chandler one. He's like,
Yeah.
could I be wearing any more nails? I don't know.
Oh dear. There's so much like stuff surrounding this film. So
The lore of this film is incredible, and I recommend everyone read up on it because it just keeps getting deeper and deeper.
so one of the members of the Commando Elite, Kip Killigan, by unlucky coincidence, apparently as the toys also this was related to the Burger King thing, there was a school shootout in America by someone called Kip Kinkle, which
Ooh,
obviously
Oh.
very similar, and so they very much did not supply any Kip Killigan toys in Oregon, which is where this was.
I get
Oh wow!
why.
Just in the state, not they didn't think, oh, we should pull this like totally.
I get why there wasn't a sequel because it sounds cursed.
Yeah, no, it seems
Hmm.
like it just wasn't Oregon.
This film sounds cursed. But how much of it did we think? How much of it was still good? Because I say the second Gremlins half was still good.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoyed the movie. It was kind of a thrill ride. Like, don't get me wrong, it had its weak spots, but it was me sitting down as an adult to absorb this movie. I had a good time.
It was
Like,
a good time.
yeah.
I just wish it was more Gremlins than kids.
Yeah, I totally agree. Apparently, there was a lot of explosions and action sequences that were cut from the movie, that had already been like shot.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the puppets. They had way more. They commissioned loads of puppets and decided to use CGI instead, which I think has not held up. If
I
I'm
know.
honest, but I didn't see it when it first came out. But
I think they said that.
CGI will never age well.
I think they said that because it was cheaper to just use CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably used the puppets like they probably had lots of them and probably blew them all up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The CGI was very PlayStation 2 graphics. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
It-
98.
it kind of
Yeah.
worked because they were toys, though. They were supposed to have like the limited movement and be a bit
Yeah.
janky. Like it kind of worked for the movie.
it
Like-
still was portrayed better in the scenes where they had the actual puppets, though. Like, the difference, especially when it cut from one to the other, like in the beginning of the movie, like the first one that you see as an actual puppet was Archer, and then it immediately cut to the shot of the commandos like breaking out of the box, and it was just like, hang on a minute, how come Archer looks so good and then suddenly these commandos look horrendous?
Yeah, it was weird. But puppetry is expensive, and
Mm.
I probably guess this film kept getting its budget all over. But yeah, so what did everyone else think about it? How much of it held up?
No, I did quite enjoy it, to be honest. Like I say, this was one of the films that I vividly remember having on VHS as a kid, and I watched it a lot. And yeah, rewatching it, I must have not seen it in at least 15 years or so.
Yeah,
And yeah, rewatching it now, I did still quite enjoy it. Like it was just quite a fun time. It wasn't a bad movie.
I think it's one of those films that actually watching it as an adult and as a kid and having those two different experiences actually does give it a second wind, and you get, the stuff that goes totally over your head as a kid, like all of the military stuff and the corporation sort of stuff. I did actually really appreciate that going into it this time around, because it allowed me to actually invest myself in the storyline. My suspension of disbelief is a little bit harder to please now, but it still managed to cater to that. So I think that's actually held up really well.
So how many Nightmare Gwendolyn dolls out there? Because I'm going to say a solid 7. Specifically the one that doesn't have a face and is just eyes.
Oh,
yeah, no, I hated that one.
So how many? I'm going to say 7 out of 10 Nightmare Gwendolyn dolls.
I'm going to say nostalgia probably helps this film a lot. And as someone who hasn't seen it as a kid, it only gets it gets five Gwendolyn dolls because half the film was good.
I think I'm gonna match you, Mikey, and say 7. I had a really good time watching it. There was a few bits of the film that I was a bit like, okay, that's that's a little bit dated, but in the same way that a lot of films have to, they end up almost showing themselves as like timepieces, I guess. And it just, yeah, I had a good time watching it. Most of it held up well. The only bits I wasn't super keen on was what we touched on earlier with the weird, you couldn't quite tell what the ages were around the kids having the romance and stuff. That was a bit iffy. But then that's also something I probably wouldn't have given a shit about when I was a kid. So yeah, 7 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree. About 7 horrific Gwendy dolls out of 10. It'd probably bump up to an 8 or 9 if we get this sequel that Michael pitched. Though, like that'd be amazing.
So on average, 6.5 Gwendolyn dolls out of 10.
Yeah, which is probably about there was probably definitely a half Gwendy doll at some point.
Yes, the one with just eyes.
Yeah. And with that, I've been Dan.
I've been Michael.
I've been Helena.
And I've been Elliot.
And you can find us on Twitter at Hilton Pod. That is at HILTM Pod. And we are now, I mean, you're probably listening to it anyway. We're now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
I am
Emissary
Emissary of the Gorgonites.